Hey everybody, welcome back to the Additives YouTube. If you have not subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. Today I am talking to Jane Murtaugh. She has been an HR professor, business all around at College of DuPage in Glen Ellen, Illinois for 20 years. And she created the HR certificate program that College of DuPage is currently offering, which that will be linked below if you're interested in finding out more information about that. So Jane, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking me to participate.
Yeah, I think that having conversations right now are really important. So we really appreciate your time to talk today. So today we are talking about the current situation and how HR is playing a role in it and kind of the job situation right now. So Jane, what industries are you seeing are actually hiring, not furloughing currently?
That's a great question to ask. As we're all living in this new normal for the past 10 weeks since mid-March, and we've all heard the sad stories on, what was it, 2.4 million more Americans filed for unemployment last week. I think we're just under 40 million unemployed due to COVID. So the good reality for people who are job searching is that companies are hiring. You just have to choose the right industry, like you said. Healthcare, obviously, technology, and part of the technology growth that we're seeing are in helping people to communicate when we suddenly threw everybody work from home. And then the realities of how did you suddenly move things online? Did you have the right technical computer equipment for your employees to be able to do that? Another one, interestingly, is in digital copywriting and audio visual, because like you were just saying, getting communication out right now is very essential, and having people who can help companies write that copy to get communication out to customers, employees, other stakeholders is very key. Science, another industry, obviously, we're working hard on vaccines. And then distribution, warehousing, and supply chain. But by that, what I mean is, you know how we had the toilet paper issue?
Yes.
And the hand sanitizer issue? And we all learned that America has a very strong supply chain, but getting the products from A to B to the consumer got a little rough. So yes, Amazon is hiring. Instacart is hiring. So that kind of distribution. And then obviously grocery stores. We all saw the Jewel and Aldi hiring ramp up. And then cleaning services, because now as we start figuring out how to bring people back into the workplace, how do I keep our businesses clean for employees and customers? So
Yeah.
there are jobs out there.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of what I'm seeing on LinkedIn as conversations are going on and people are kind of talking about what's going on. I know in our industry, the plastics industry, is definitely hiring. Obviously, automotive has taken a slow ramp down, but medical supplies have a huge demand. So people are definitely hiring for that. Another interesting thing that I want to bring up that I saw on LinkedIn is people, and Facebook, honestly, any social media, everybody's talking about this, is that plastic coverings and wrappers for our produce. Are people going to buy that green bell pepper that isn't already wrapped in plastic because who's touched it, who's coughed on it, who's been around it? I don't trust it. Right. So I think that that's going to be something our industry might have more of a need for, is to supply plastic coverings for food. And also plastic bags. For a long time, it's been, plastic bags, how are we recycling them? Let's use reusable bags, cut down our plastic use. But now you go to an Aldi and they won't let you bring in your reusable bags. It's plastic only because you use it once, you recycle it, you get rid of it. It's done. It's out of your house. You don't have to worry about sanitizing and all that. So I think it's really interesting that in our industry, I think that we're such a big industry, but I just think it's going to get even bigger with this because there's going to be more need to make people feel safe and to want to buy food and, all that stuff. So really interesting. So now that we've talked about, industries that are hiring, what about resumes? There's a lot of trends in resumes. They're kind of always changing on what you should have. I feel like I update mine and then a month later I hear there's something else. What should you be putting on it during these times? Like that you have a Zoom account? Like what's the new trends?
That's actually a very interesting question, which should I put my ability to present in Zoom, work in Zoom? Yes, as part of your skills. Because this unemployment is so high, competition to get jobs is going to be tougher than normal. And the resume is often that first 20-second scan that a recruiter or an interviewer or an employer or somebody sees. So you need to make sure that you have the information they need as opposed to the information that you want to have on a resume. They're pretty basic and vanilla looking right now. We don't like to see a lot of bolding. We don't like to see a lot of italics. People like to put their name in bigger font with a horizontal line or horizontal lines in between each section. Don't do that anymore. Companies use applicant tracking software. You might hear this called an ATS. And the goal is, if you get 20-second review, you've got to get through that software to get to that personal review first.
Right.
We talk a lot about, we used to say career objectives, looking for a job in, but everybody knows you're looking for a job. So make that first section after your name, phone number, and make sure that's a phone number you actually answer with a voicemail that you will actually look at, and that's not going to say this voicemail is full. Have an email address and something that's professional. So it's instead of I like wrestling at gmail.com, maybe it's
Yes.
janedoe@gmail.com.
Right.
Don't include references anymore. We used to say references available upon request or list 3. Those also are not needed. Don't use I or me. So I have done this. Instead, in your impact statements for the jobs you have, strong action verbs. Show what you have done. So I might see something along the lines of brought in 5 new accounts, bringing in $50,000 of revenue, closed X number of customers, saved X number of dollars, like cost savings, because those are measurable metrics that everybody's looking for. Back up at the top, one of the things I forgot to mention was include your LinkedIn address.
Yes.
Because LinkedIn can not only help you find a job, but it also is another way that we represent ourselves, kind of like in a graphical resume type format. I'm a big one on stick to one page. If your experience warrants to, fine, then try to balance out the content, but don't separate a page break don't have like the name of the company at the bottom of page 1 and then the list of your impact statements, what you did, at the top of page 2.
Right.
Another key thing is proof it, reproof it, and reproof it again, because you don't want the deterrent to be a typo or a grammatical error that's going to cost someone from, if they can't get it right on a resume, will they get it right in the work?
Right.
Save it as a Word document, save it as a PDF document, and again, make sure that it has a name that's professional. So it could be ID Additives, or like Jane Murtaugh ID Additives, something that takes you and the job itself, as opposed to resume number 20.
Right. Yes.
So think about what that name is communicating.
Yeah. I'm guilty of that, of saving things, probably not the most professional, but I think you're right. Those little things make a difference on it's showing who you are. And I think that people really do. It seems silly, but they really do look at those kinds of things.
And keep your hobbies off of it. No personal information, just very basic. We need to get it through those applicant tracking system software packages so that it gets to the right person, so that they can determine whether or not they see you add value.
Right.
When I said before, we don't use career objectives anymore. We use these professional summaries. So target each resume to each job and tell them in that opening 2 sentences or a list of skills, which might include Zoom experience.
Right.
But tell them why they should hire you in terms of what value you bring to them at the top, right there at the very top.
Yeah, I think that that's important. The resume tells a story, but a quick story. Once you get into that interview, then you can start the
Right.
conversation going. So you brought up having your LinkedIn at the top, which brings us to our next topic. How are we networking right now? What are we doing? What's
And
going
this,
on?
yeah, this is something, Carolyn, you and I have talked about many times. To me, networking and connections are very key. And in a competitive job market, this is even more so. So someone you know knows someone who may have a job opening. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing is we have to realize that jobs aren't coming to us, we go to them. So networking means making connections that are professional relationships within your area of interest. So mine, as you said, is human resource management. So I spend a lot of time with professional associations and the HR industry and build connections that way. So then that way, if I would like a guest speaker or someone else to come into a classroom or have an HR question of, I can quickly send an email or pick up the phone. As a new college grad, you need to work on those connections. So
Yeah.
faculty, past employers, it might be family, it might be friends, it might be a neighbor, it might be a group on LinkedIn. I just found out yesterday about a group on LinkedIn called hashtag students of LinkedIn, and went out to it yesterday afternoon, and it has a source of information on job searching, fireside chats, and so on. But again, everyone you touch, it's almost like everybody you come in contact with is a potential job interview.
Mm-hmm.
So making those connections today help when you have those situations like we're all going through with these job losses. A good professional acquaintance of mine happened to post yesterday on LinkedIn that he knew of someone in a certain industry who'd been laid off but had 10 or 12 years of experience, had done X number of things, and by the end of the day, that person, the amount of people that had reached out to her who might not have been hiring but had an idea or knew someone that did, really helps.
I agree. And I think right now it's going to be all virtual, obviously. So having that presence on LinkedIn, something that I had here was I see a lot of conversations, at least in the plastics industry, is a lot of people are doing Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn lives. And
Yes.
then they talk about their topic and then they say, hey, like submit some questions. And it's a conversation. And then I bet conversations are happening then outside of that LinkedIn live, a
Yes.
connect, and then it's just talking, lots of conversation talking. I feel like it's the only way to network and get through this. And I think that that's a big tip for college students is yes, stay in contact with those professors. Make sure you're joining those groups on LinkedIn and just asking other people like, hey, what's going on with you?
Right.
I think that's kind of a way Additives is getting through it too. We're just calling people and saying, how are you?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? I
And
just think that's how to do it.
I see a lot of that with sometimes employers will come to us as faculty to say, do you know of anyone who? And again, by maintaining those connections with faculty, that can get passed on to you as well. But then also like what you were saying, it's more, remember how when we all got Facebook and the goal was to have 1,500 friends on Facebook just so we could say we had 1,500 friends on Facebook?
Yep.
That's not what we want. That's not what we mean by networking and connections. These have to be nurtured. They have
Yes.
to be nourished. It's a relationship that has to be built. So I tell my students all the time, come to these professional events with me, but you have to be the one who reaches out and does the talking and makes that connection. And it has to be something more than I came here because you might have a job for me or
Mm-hmm.
help me find a job. Again, you have to build the relationship. Participating in mentoring programs is a wonderful way
Yes.
to build connections.
Yes,
I think you
absolutely. I
advocate
think um, mentorships, there's a lot of that again in the plastics industry. And I think that's how, when you listen to a lot of people's stories on how they got to where they are, it's through a connection or a mentor or networking and nurturing and nourishing these relationships. So to kind of go into our next topic, so we've networked, we've nourished this relationship, we've done, we have this connection. Now we're offered this job. right now we're seeing a lot of entry level jobs being offered. And to some people, it's not looked at as positive. I was a manager, I was furloughed, here's this entry level job. What do you have to say on that? You know, I think that a lot of people are not wanting to take a step down right now, or
Sometimes
really ever.
Well, and sometimes we have to take a step backward to move forward. And with a high unemployment rate like we're seeing, that could very possibly be the case. I think most of your career coaches will tell you be open and be flexible right now. So if you came to me and said, I want to work at ID Additives, for example, but the position I want isn't open, they offered me this job, I might say to you, do you have an interest in that job? Is this a large company? Do you see growth? Because it's okay to take that job knowing that there's a ability for you to grow within that organization. And perhaps the job you really want will open up in 3, 4, whatever kind of years it might be. The key to me is, as a new grad, you have to build your resume. So we're not all going to be president or a vice president. You have to start at that entry level. And if you're in a career transition, sometimes we have to take that step back to move forward. And also understand that taking that step back might include a salary decrease as well. But the big key for right now is knowing that we have to be open and flexible, and the job we're after might not be there today, but it could be there tomorrow. You know, a lot of companies are also having to cut back on the amount of what they're offering in benefits. We see a lot of companies not doing 401k matching anymore. So you might be able to get your foot in the door, but not at the benefits or salary that you had looked at. But keep in mind, with that high unemployment, some of the companies that are hiring are saying, we're going to put a hiring freeze on for full-time and permanent employees and do a lot. I'm seeing a lot of contracts or temp to hire positions. They'll come in for 2 or 3 months for contract hiring, because companies are trying to figure out what's next in the economy of their firm, just like you and I are trying to figure it out from the employment side. So today, be flexible, be open, work on building your resume, and work on building your skill set.
Definitely. I think that that is good advice. I think that's good advice really in any time.
Right.
I mean, if we take COVID-19 out of it, you kind of have to start here to get here. You know, you're not going to just jump into a management position. And so I think that's good advice really over the board. Where and how do you think people should be job searching right now? I mean, we know before it was Indeed, LinkedIn, you've said connections, but is there any other kind of thing you're seeing right now where people should be looking for jobs?
So I would still tell you that those are still very relevant. Career Builder, LinkedIn, your connections. Then also, you know, like you had said, I teach at College of DuPage. We have a wonderful career services center, and employers will go to them. We're not doing career fairs on campus during a COVID shutdown, but there's a whole lot of virtual work that's going on where employers come to us, and then we can get that information out through communications on websites and so on. The other thing I would say is even when we were talking about industries and who's hiring, look for trends on LinkedIn. And to me, that's one of the values of LinkedIn for job searching. You can set your profile to say open to new opportunities, and that increases the amount of hits coming from a recruiter. Another thing is, and I do this for students, set job alerts. So if I'm looking for a human resource coordinator or human resource generalist within the Chicagoland area, then every day I get job alerts automatically from LinkedIn. And they tell you how many days or weeks ago a job was posted. If it was posted 4 weeks ago, I wouldn't necessarily make that be my priority.
Right.
But something in the past 24 hours, that's a great way to use LinkedIn. I also, if I wanted to target a company, I would follow it. And follow it on LinkedIn, follow it on its website, and just continuously be going out to see what employment opportunities might be there. And that, again, you can see the value of the connections and network that we have.
Definitely, especially in HR. I will say I took the HR certificate program. I
Yes,
finished.
Charlie's grad.
Yes, I just,
Alumni.
yep, alumni here. So, and you know, you always kept saying, "Oh, the HR community is great. The HR community is so helpful." And wow, it really is. I mean, you
It's
tweet something hashtag HR community, and it's like you're getting all these tweets. You know what I
right.
mean? And answers. And so I think that, yeah, going back to where you graduated college, I think a lot of people forget that too. Even if you graduated 15 years ago, you know, hey, I'm an alumni, I need help with, and all these colleges have so much resources. So I just think that that kind of gets lost sometimes. So I think that that's a great, you know, tip to tell people, go to your colleges and see what the career services is doing, because they're always doing something.
And I feel a little bad when we were talking about connections, alumni.
Yes.
I feel bad I didn't mention that because your alumni group, even on LinkedIn or through your
Yes.
alumni office on campus, it's a
Yes.
another great connection and another, could have
Right. And you
another
made us
job.
all connect with each other. And I think that that's important. Because if I have an opening and I remember someone from my class that may be in the group saying that they're looking for something, there's a
Right.
conversation. So,
Well, and even in LinkedIn, when you search on a company or a job comes up, it'll say X number of alumni work here because LinkedIn knows where's your degree from. And then you can click on that list and it could be a quick, I'm applying, what are your thoughts?
yes,
Could you put a
definitely.
job in? I did.
Definitely.
Could you put a good word in?
Exactly. Very cool. So last topic before we wrap up is upskilling. Upskilling your business and yourself. What do you think people should be doing? What kind of certificates and things are out there? What do you have to say on that?
This is so important to me. I think about if you're in an interview with me in the future, let's just say 4 months from now, 4 weeks from now. What if I said to you, Carolyn, how did you spend your time during the COVID shutdown? And the answer to that will have a lot to do with, did you take advantage of perhaps extra time during a furlough or a layoff where you could have been upskilling? And there's so many ways now for us to personally do that. Free webinars.
Mm-hmm.
And again, go back to those professional associations. In the Chicagoland area, there's 3 local Society for Human Resource Management chapters who are all doing virtual office hours, chats, and free webinars. And every single one of those is an opportunity to upskill. There are some of these certificates like you're talking about in terms of maybe I need to know more about Excel, or maybe I need to know more about a certain industry. I am taking a class right now called Shaping the Work of the Future, just to get a better idea of what are researchers out of MIT looking at in terms of how robotics and automation will change tomorrow's jobs. Totally free, but a perfect opportunity to upskill and then be able to make connections to future classes. So if you're weak in a skill set, now's the time to do that. Now's the time
Definitely.
to make use to get yourself upskilled.
I think that's really important too, because the question you asked, you know, what did you do during your furlough? You know, if you just say, oh, I saw it as a break, you know, it's right. I just, I don't know, I was just quarantined. I think that you build your resume even if you don't have a job. You know, it's important to, like you said, to keep adding experience, like taking those entry-level jobs and stuff.
Right.
You know, take an online class. You're right, a lot of these resources are free.
They are.
It's not even really like, you know, you need to go back to full-time school. It's a quick 4-week online thing, and you come out on the other side with a new skill and strong things to put on your resume, and that'll be, you know, you'll be able to come out on the other side of this with a new skill and be able to look at those jobs. I wanted to mention that we're in Illinois, and we're all in the anticipation of us to reopen. And what is that going to look like? And are you going to run out to a restaurant and hair salon? And the salon I go to, Elevate Salon in LaGrange, Illinois, I made my appointment, and the reason I did that is because she sent me the certificate that she got all for employees on how to sanitize and keep customers and
Wonderful.
employees safe during COVID-19. And that made me feel better, and that made me schedule that appointment. So I think businesses need to be thinking about this, and, you know, people themselves. You know, how are you going to give confidence in people that I'm the right person to hire, or come to my business, it's safe?
And that's a good point. Like you had said, what about upskilling our business? So you can see that not only did she upskill her staff, but she upskilled her business, which then makes you and I more comfortable as we return, as we leave our homes to go back out into all these businesses. The reality is learning never ends.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we all know that. Even once you walk across the stage to grab a diploma, we are never done learning. And COVID-19, this pandemic, has shown us it's definitely reinforced this for all of us. We've learned, kind of like what you were saying before, the opportunities from it, the threats from it, and then now being what we're learning today will help us be better prepared for the next unexpected situation that arises.
Definitely, I agree. Well, that's all we have today. Is there any last minute comments before we wrap it up?
I know I would just say on the job search front, don't be frustrated, don't give up. It's out there. Develop your plan. Set time aside each day. We in HR talk a lot about pray and pray. So PREY and PRAY. So today I sent out 100 resumes and I just blasted them out there. Don't take that kind of approach to it. Don't just throw your resumes out and expect people to come to you. Just be more intentional. The jobs are there. We just have to go find out where they are.
Definitely. And shout out to the class of 2020. The future is bright.
Absolutely.
You can do it, and we are going to come out on the other side of this better. I really do. It might seem like there's a lot of negatives going on, but I see some positives, and I think our conversation today kind of showed that. So, Jane, thank you so much again for coming and talking with me.
For having me.
And everybody watching, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. We're trying to hit 1,000 followers by the end of 2020. And if you are interested at all about this human resource management certificate, please hit the link below. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.